Well, hello there, you scrub lords, and welcome to another episode of Tank History. This is your host, Many Miles Away, and today we are discussing the long-awaited Leopard 2A4. This is the main battle tank of the West German government, used during the second half of the Cold War, and is still operated by many countries around the world, some more successfully than others. Now, before I begin, I highly encourage you to go back and watch my development videos on the Leopard 2K and the M1 Abrams, as they both tie into today's video. This time we will begin right where the last one left off, so without further ado, let's get on with it. So when we last stopped, we were discussing the Leopard 2AV, which I mistakenly called the Austere-Version. I have since been corrected that AV actually stands for Abgemagerte Version. Regardless, two prototypes were sent to the United States to compete against the Chrysler and General Motors XM1 prototypes. In addition, a separate shipment containing a redesigned German Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore gun was also sent over to be tested by the Leopard 2AV and for use in ballistic testing. While the 2AVs lost out to the Chrysler XM1, the US was fairly impressed with the 2AV and even more so with the Rheinmetall gun. It was this impression that would lead the US to adopt the Rheinmetall gun into US service on the M1A1 Abrams as the M256 smoothbore gun. The Leopard 2 put an emphasis from the beginning on greater protection for the crew. The vehicle's hull and turret were designed to have swappable armor compartments, which would allow easy upgrade to incorporate any future advances in armor protection. After substantial testing, in 1977 the West German Ministry of Defense ordered 1,800 Leopard 2 main battle tanks for the Bundeswehr. Krauss-Maffei AG was to be the general contractor, with Krupp MAK in Kiel also heavily involved in the production process. In the spring of 1977, the West Germans tested two potential fire control systems for use on Leopard 2. One was a German design created by AEG Telefunken, with the competitor being an American design created by the Hughes Company. Despite being very similar in capabilities, the American design won out and was used on the series production vehicles. The first production series Leopard 2 was delivered to the Bundeswehr on October 11, 1978, followed by three more in early 1979. This early batch of vehicles featured a newly designed operator's platform and modified tracks. Further testing led to many more smaller modifications as early bugs were ironed out. As an example, the first batch of 200 vehicles designated Leopard 2A0 included the addition of the EMES-15 main periscopic sight with integrated night vision, a laser rangefinder, the Peri PERI R17 TC panoramic day view periscope, the Fero FERO Z18 turret main gun sight for the gunner, the WNA H-22 electro-hydraulic gun laying and stabilization system, known in German as Waffennachführanlage, which we will come back to this later. In addition, the Hughes fire control system was also added, a crosswind sensor on the turret roof, the RPPP 1-8 ballistic computer and tester was added to the vehicle, an image intensifier, known as the PZB-200, without thermal imaging, was added, and sight-mounted side skirts were also included in the modifications to 2A0. The second batch of 450 vehicles, designated Leopard 2A1, were delivered between March of 1982 and November of 1983. This batch saw the modification of the gunner's thermal sight installation and improvements to the ammunition racks, including blowout panels similar to the M1 Abrams. Improvements were made to the fuel filters to accommodate faster refueling, and another batch of 300 vehicles of this type were delivered between November of 83 to November of 1984. The Leopard 2A2s were simply A0 vehicles brought up to 2A1 standards, which saw the replacement of the PZB-200 by the EMES-15 thermal sights. More modifications involving the fuel system were applied, but most importantly, deflector plates designed to protect the periscope and NBC protection system were added. This process lasted from 1984 to 1987. The Leopard 2A3s were the fourth batch of 300 vehicles delivered between 1984 and 1985. These featured the new SEM80/90 digital radios, which were also added to Leopard 1s still in service. In addition, the ammunition reloading hatches in the turret were welded shut to remove it as a structural weak point. Finally, we get to our vehicle today, designated Leopard 2A4. It is not only the most numerous of all the Leopard 2 variants, with more than 1,800 built in 8 separate batches between 1985 and 1992, but it became the new standard for previous models to be upgraded to. The new changes involve the addition of an automated fire suppression system, an all-digital FCS, and armor improvements to the turret known as the B-type standard. This included titanium and tungsten set into the armor compartments to substantially increase protection levels, with some areas of the frontal arc being protected by as much as 400mm of effective armor. The digital FCS used on the Leopard 2A4 is very similar to the US M1A1 FCS with a few minor differences. For example, on the M1A1 and the M1A2, the FCS does not tell the gunner which ammunition is loaded, and must mentally keep track of what round is loaded in the tube and set the FCS accordingly. The Leopard's FCS does tell the gunner what ammunition is loaded. Further differences arise when attempting to lead moving targets. The M1A1 has a system where the gunner must laser target with the laser rangefinder and track it for 1.5 seconds to allow for the FCS to computate the lead, which then drags the reticle behind the target while simultaneously setting the gun to the proper elevation to account for the drop of the round. On the Leopard 2A4, the system is similar, but in order to computate the lead, the gunner must hold a dynamic lead button while tracking a target, which is located on his control unit, better known in US tanker talk as the Cadillac. Another interesting factoid is that while the Leopard 2 is listed as having a stabilizer, the electro-hydraulic gun-laying system doesn't work in the traditional sense. Normally, a stabilizer is directly connected to the gun. However, on the Leopard 2, this is not the case. In fact, it could be said that the gun has no stabilizer at all, at least in a physical sense. The way the gun is stabilized on the Leopard 2 is that the electro-hydraulic system is directly connected to the fire control system. The FCS receives data from the optical sensors, which then sends micro-adjustments to the elevation and traverse mechanisms in order to keep the gun on target. In fact, the system will even block the gunner from shooting if the gun is not aligned with the target reticle, and displays whether or not it is ready to fire with an F at the bottom of the sight. As far as other countries who operate the Leopard 2, including its more recent variations, the list includes Austria, Denmark, Finland, Greece, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Canada, Chile, Qatar, Singapore, and most infamously, Turkey. Problems with the Leopard 2A4 and its earlier variants come down to a couple of things. The first of which is that much of the design was already completed before the suitable armor composites were ready. As a result, the Leopard 2A0 to 2A4 has a weak point behind the gunner's optic, which was created by the fitting of the optical systems directly into the turret cheek, resulting in less room to fit armor. The big problem facing Leopard 2, however, is its unprotected frontal ammo rack in the hull, which has caused numerous problems with recent actions involving Leopard 2A4 in Syria being used by the Turkish military. Although most of the issues regarding the Leopard 2 in Syria seem to come down to user error, with many of the vehicles being lost due to unauthorized modifications such as the removal of the blast doors in the turret bustle racks and failed attempts to utilize the tanks in urban environments with little to no infantry support. Armor-wise, the 2A4, as mentioned, has several different armor schemes identified by letter prefixes. The early Leopard 2A4s received the B-type armor package, followed up by later C and D models in later batches. The B-type armor values are shown according to a Swedish test document to be around 350 to 400mm of effective frontal protection, and this is the most likely version to see within War Thunder, as the armor values are known and easily balanced among other top-tier MBTs. In addition, unlike the M1 Abrams and the T-64B, the gun mantlet area is not actually a weak point on the Leopard 2A4. It features a 420mm block of composite armor with a 240mm trunnion behind that. So while it may be possible to knock out the cannon breech, the likelihood of penetrating into the fighting compartment behind it with any of the current KE penetrators in game is very slim. Ammunition-wise, the Leopard 2A4 is equipped with DM33 AP FSDS and DM12A1 Heat FS. DM33 is an improvement over DM13A1 and DM23 AP FSDS used by earlier Leopard 2 models, by a further lengthening of the penetrator from 360mm to 510mm in length, with a diameter of 28mm. This allows the Leopard 2A4 to perforate a minimum of 500mm of rolled homogeneous steel armor at 2 km against 60-degree angled armor. Basically speaking, it's one long boy. Like I mentioned in the Leopard 2K's video, the Germans do not use DM11HE rounds, nor do they utilize the 120mm Lahat ATGM developed and tested on the 2A4 in 2005. In addition, for their KE penetrators, the Germans still to this day utilize only tungsten alloys, as they deem the depleted uranium penetrators that the Americans use to be too great of an environmental hazard. The Rheinmetall gun also does not fire any sort of HESH or high explosive plastic, as this ammunition type is not effective against enemy main battle tanks, and its HE properties can be easily substituted by the DM12A1 heat rounds. As far as mobility is concerned, the Leopard 2A4 is equipped with the MTU diesel power pack, which cranks out about 1500 horsepower. However, the 5 extra tons over the Leopard 2K mean that its power-to-weight ratio is slightly less at around 27 horsepower per ton. However, you trade a little mobility for vastly better protection and firepower, meaning that this should be a non-issue. So I hope you enjoyed this video on the development of the Leopard 2A4. If you have any further concerns or questions, please leave them down in the description below. And without further ado, this has been many miles away, so keep your tracks checked, keep your binders in place, keep around in the tube, and I will see all of you guys in the Unicorn review coming out tomorrow. Thank you.